Hello, 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 and welcome to the Rag Company Podcast. Today, a DETALKSCAST, which means we have some folks from the detailing industry. And who are these folks? Gentlemen, introduce yourselves.
Dave, go ahead.
I'm Dave Patterson. I am product manager with Lake Country Manufacturing.
And my name is Andrew Scruton-Wilson, and I'm the West Coast Regional Sales Representative for Lake Country Manufacturing.
Yeah! Awesome. Lake Country in the house. All right, so.
This is good stuff.
Guys, it's great having you here. Obviously, you know,
what's crazy is
lot
it's a
of
week
people
before SEMA.
Yeah.
And
we normally
flew
wouldn't
here
plan
to be on the podcast.
Yeah.
So you guys are getting a special treat. We're not Skyping this in.
Nope.
You guys actually flew on airplanes.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a pro move.
Yeah.
Right there.
David got in at like midnight last night. Andrew got in at like 7:30 this morning.
Yeah.
Something like that.
That's what it felt like.
Waking up, you know, he's got his Rebecca cup. He's drinking his coffee.
Yeah, thanks, Rebecca, for loaning your
He'll
cup.
be up to 100% shortly. But, guys, you're here because you've got some very interesting things going on at Lake Country.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about SEMA.
Yes.
That's coming up.
Yep.
And what folks that are going to be attending SEMA can expect.
Yes.
And maybe see what's on the horizon for Lake Country. So one of the big things is the new catalog.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty dope.
It is awesome.
Connor's on there.
Yeah, little Connor Harrison right there.
Yeah.
It's a neat project that we worked on. I say neat, and it's a catalog, but you know,
Closer to the mic.
But it is. I think it's kind of neat because it's more of an educational piece.
Get closer to your mic. There you go.
It's more of an educational piece, so it talks about all the different product lines that we have. It goes over our suggestions on what types of tools that they go on or what we would recommend them for.
Yeah.
It lists all the different part numbers for all those items so you can easily find what you'd like. And then it also has an aggression chart in the back, which is something that we've lacked for a long time.
Yeah. Well, and the old aggression chart just was kind of hard to follow. It wasn't as simple.
Yeah, it was created online. I think one of them was probably created by Todd Helm, actually, from Autopia back in the day. And a lot of those were through the Autopia forum or some of the other forums that were going on at the time. So this catalog gave us an opportunity, for one, to have our own catalog that showed all of our product that we're discussing or that we're actively selling.
Yeah.
And create individual aggression charts for each pad line, and then summarize that at the end for a kind of a go-to aggression chart if you needed to understand where a pad fell in line to another line's pad.
How it relates.
So you can compare the wool pad cut to this certain type of foam pad. You could compare the HDO pad to a force pad and how they would compare in cut and finish.
Yeah. No, and that makes it nice. I just like the way this is all set up. I like the pictures. I like
It's a good-looking catalog.
Yeah,
Thanks.
It's very simple. I mean,
means a
you
lot
open
for
it
the
up
stuff
and
you guys
there's
Oh, thanks.
you've got a little bit of you've got all the different stuff, you know, in the sense that industrial, retail, private, but then you've got all the different tools. And what's really cool is like Lake Country makes pads for everything. That's like the biggest thing that most people don't seem to understand.
Yep.
How many pads you guys actually make or how long you guys have been making pads.
Yep.
That's the crazy thing. You know, and you were saying it started out with wool.
Yeah.
Back
Sheepskin.
doing sheepskin.
Yep.
For, what was it? It was an industrial.
Yeah, it was more of an industrial sheepskin buffing pad when our current owner purchased Lake Country. They made some leather dice cups, some powder puffs for makeup, and sheepskin pads.
Yeah.
And essentially he sold off parts of the company and focused on the sheepskin, and that grew into buffing pads as foams came into the market, because it's hard to believe that at one time that foams were not on the market for polishing.
Pre-foam.
Pre-foam, yep. And even the foams that were used were completely different.
They were
than what
bad,
we're doing
yeah.
now,
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of wool diehards out there, or dyed in the wool hearts.
Wool's had a resurgence. And, you know, Lake Country's always used wool because they've always kind of specialized. Even the purple foamed wool, blue foamed wool, all those are really been great wools, especially with the DA technology. But to be able to actually have, I don't know, the new versions of the wools and things that you guys have been working on is pretty awesome as well. Some of the other manufacturers. But then even crazier, you guys decided to build a machine.
Yeah, which is crazy. I think a lot of people think that we're crazy for that.
I can hear everybody in the audience going, finally, they're going to talk about it.
Oh, they've been waiting. Sorry, guys, my voice is seeming to go. But the UDOS
UDOS.
UDOS.
Now remind us, what does that stand for, acronym-wise?
So UDOS is user-defined orbital stroke. So you get to
Very
choose
cool.
the orbit length or the style of orbit length that you want.
So basically, you have a long throw and a short throw, all in one.
Yeah.
But it's even more than that.
And even some medium in between.
You can do almost like you were showing us, like you can do a 15 and a 21.
Yep.
So you have two versions of a long throw.
Yep.
Then you can also do two versions of a short throw, basically.
Yeah. Yep.
All in one machine.
Correct. Yeah, and I think
which is nuts.
Yeah, I think it's the beginning to where our market's going, and it's kind of cool to be part of that. But I think in the long run, what you're going to see is obviously Flex has made battery-powered tools. Battery-powered tools are going to be more popular. Being able to offer an universal stroke or an optional stroke provides a number of different options. So whether you wanted to do fine finish sanding, if you get into like an 8mm or smaller, if you want to do kind of a medium or more aggressive sanding with your 12mm, otherwise you could potentially use one of the larger orbits, similar to how you'd use a mud hog in the DA shop or in the body shop, for really aggressive sanding as well. As much as this tool is targeted more towards the detailer and the detail market, I think the long-term future of it is a battery-powered tool that can be used in the body shop and can sand and buff and do everything pretty easily and be maneuverable around the shop.
Well, and naturally, I mean, that's really versatile. That's cool. I mean, one of the things that a lot of people will see is, okay, it can do multiple things, but can it do them well? That's always a question, because I go, oh, jack of all trades, and we all know how that phrase ends. So obviously you guys have thought about that, and you definitely made some strides to make sure it was actually good at what it did.
Yeah, and I think that along with the tool performance, the way that it's marketed is going to be a big adder for us, just because every market's different, especially when you look globally. Let's just start with pads. If you look at Asia, they use a lot of large rotary pads. You look at the U.S., and rotary pads are becoming less and less, and you have more DA polishers and more DA pads. So when you look at markets like Europe, it's not uncommon for them to use an electric sander in the body shop, whereas you don't see that too much in the U.S. market.
Not much.
So
yeah, more people are using like air-powered DAs.
Yeah, pneumatic stuff for that.
So
yeah, most body shops have large compressors that can take most heavy air tools, and that's kind of what they use. But I see electric tools becoming more popular, but I also see that if there are struggles on how that transitions in the body shop, that the evolution of cordless tools will be able to push that entry of that market for us, at least, I think.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So this is kind of the final design then, right?
Yeah.
What's on here? Because you brought a prototype, one of the prototypes, so we can look at it. But I mean, this is going to be, it's a good looking machine.
Yeah. We're going to have some slight modifications. We're still working through the ergonomics on the nose and how that will finish looking, and some slight modifications on the back handle as well.
Okay. And one of the cool things that we were talking about was that front nose.
Yep.
Space for hands.
Yep.
Andrew, you have
small hands?
Maybe. I don't know.
Do we all
judgy
have
much?
We all got big hands there?
I'm surprised.
Anthony's got some small hands.
He's very self-conscious about those.
That surprises me. He doesn't seem like a self-conscious kind of guy.
Anthony's not here, so we can talk about it. But basically, everybody knows that Anthony has small hands. It's known on the podcast.
Yep.
So David was explaining. He's like, my hands are kind of small, and I was like, I don't think your hands are small. And so we checked. Our hands are about the same size. And then I was like, let me show you some small hands. And Anthony was standing right next to us. And I made Anthony put his hand up. He's like, fine. So I was like, anyway, you were saying small-handed people can't hold a polisher very well. No, that's like, but we were talking about like just the cramping and the ergonomics. And you said, another person had held it that had very long fingers and was like, it's going to make my hand cramp.
Yeah. So originally when I saw the finished nose design, I was a little hesitant on the shape and the ergonomics of it. But once we got it in our hand, I actually really liked it for how I hold the tool, which everybody holds the tool a little bit different.
Right.
So that's part of the problem.
Well, and that's the crazy thing people need to understand is like you guys are designing a tool from the ground up.
Yeah.
And this isn't a Chinese copy of anything.
No.
The technology of this has never existed before, and it's technology that you guys have patented.
Yeah, we have patented worldwide in a few different ways.
Yeah.
On the actual design of it, but then how it works too. So it's got a utility patent design, or a utility patent based on how the
mechanical
insides work and how that relates to the orbit change.
Yeah.
The overall design was based on balancing airplanes. So the weight is displaced with the orbit at the same time. So the weight moves with the orbit change.
Okay.
It was really cool when you were showing us how you actually adjusted it, because it reminded me of like some really intricate combination lock, just the movement and everything.
Mm-hmm.
It had that really solid ka-chunk kind of feel to it. I just thought it looked really cool. But
thanks,
yeah.
And sorry, and then also speaking about small hands.
Oh, go
right back to that. But there is actually a lot of testing that we're doing too. Dave mentioned from like an ergonomics standpoint that we want this thing to run extremely smooth.
Yeah.
And
so vibration.
Vibration's huge.
That's
right?
a big factor.
And fatigue in the detailer's hand, right? Or whoever may be using it, if it's a body shop professional or even the DIYer. So there's a lot that goes into that type of testing, and we really want to make sure we get it right.
No. I think one of the things that the average detailer doesn't really understand completely is that vibration and fatigue. So
yeah, they don't.
It's compounded over time. They don't notice it right away. They go, it just kind of buzzes a little bit.
No, but those of us that have been in the industry for a really long
time
time know the damage that vibration can do over time, not just to your joints, but to the nerves in your hand, your skin, all that stuff.
You wear your gloves pretty much exclusively now whenever you're polishing.
I started that 6 years ago. I started wearing gloves.
Small gloves.
No, I have big. My hands are big.
Out of necessity.
I have to wear extra large gloves. That's how big my hands are. No, I'm just but no, I wear my gloves because that's what I started doing. So, and when every time we post pictures of me polishing and I got my gloves on. It's funny to see the detailers that do come out of the woodwork and go, "What kind of gloves are those, and why do you wear those?" It's like, well, I just wear them because I can't handle a tool anymore. I feel all of it now.
If you're young, it's a foreign concept, but if you've been there, you know.
Yeah, well,
and I'm glad they're asking. That's a good thing. I mean, if they're genuinely curious.
What's crazy nowadays is the amount, like you're saying, of ergonomic design that goes into things, because tools nowadays are needing to have that. Before, we just threw a big rotary on a roof and just held on.
Right.
Yeah.
And you wanted a heavier one, right?
And you wanted to always have one that was even bigger so you could lift it up and, you know, get your little workout in at the same time. But now to have tools that are designed specifically to feel good in your hands, give you that working time, that longer, you know, just being able to get more out of the tool, that means a lot.
Yeah.
Especially to older guys like me that have destroyed their bodies.
And here people thought you were wearing them just to look cool.
No, I wear weightlifting wrist straps around my forearms as compression sleeves.
Yep.
Just because my elbows are shot.
I had this mental picture when you said that of like old biker gloves with the fingers cut off. You know,
that's what I wear too.
I was kind of picturing like Michael Jackson.
I buy mechanics impacts because they have EVA foam in the palms, but then I cut off 2 of the fingers.
Okay.
So that way I can feel the paint if I need to, if I'm checking for heat.
It's a half hobo glove?
Cool. It's a half hobo glove. So the 2 front fingers are always covered and my thumb. But then my pinkies are always exposed.
So it's just a hoe or a bow. It's not both.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, that's just so I can feel the paint and I can check for temperature.
Yeah. Well, for those listening, you may not have been able to see it, but if you're watching on the podcast
David whipped it out of his bag.
Oh, my goodness. Well, the machine is here. Now, this is a prototype, of course, so you'll note that it does look a little different than the picture, but that's because this is getting little tweaks here and there.
And this is a metal case, too.
Yeah, this thing is solid.
Yep.
And I'll just note, David, you may want to point your mic just a little higher up. I know we keep saying it. It's just one of those things. You're a soft-spoken dude.
I am a little soft-spoken. I give you that.
Yeah, there you go.
Big heart, though.
There we go.
There you go. Yeah, just get it right up in your face. There you go. Perfect. Okay. Yeah. Well, so we got the machine here, and can you just do the motion of adjusting the orbit?
Yeah. So if you're listening to this on the just on your phone or on iTunes, please go to the YouTube channel and watch this.
It's super cool.
It's got gears or slots where the outer the ring that changes the orbit locks into, and then as it moves, you can see the weight, the counterweight moves as the orbit changes. So if you just notice that the
spindle,
we're at our smallest orbit with our spindle, roughly 6 or 8 millimeters, and now we can turn that, and now it unclick once it gets into gear. So that's 12 millimeter. That'd be 15 millimeter. Oh, I missed one. There's 21. That's 15.
I mean, that doesn't take hardly any time at all.
Yeah. No, that's 12. And then this would be roughly your 6 or 8. So we're still finalizing
the actual throws.
Yeah, what we want to keep that at to get a happy balance of everything and what the consumer needs exactly.
Are you guys open to consumer suggestions in terms of orbit? I mean, I was thinking maybe it'd be kind of cool if people had, orbits they were looking for. If enough people said something that was out of the norm and you're like, I guess there's a demand for that. Maybe that becomes one of the
an email address.
They should send you guys an email, right?
Yeah, you definitely should. And if you go on our website, there's an email link right on the
there you go,
like a tech email link, and you can send it there. We'll definitely listen to it. We got a lot of good feedback at Automechanica in Germany.
So the website is lcpowertools.com.
Boom.
Yep. Or Lake Country MFG.com, and you'll see a link on both of them.
Nice.
Additionally, too, we'll be able to demo it at SEMA.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
So there'll be a machine you guys can check out.
Yeah. Will it be this one?
It will not. It'll be slightly different. So this is the mechanism that you'll see when you're at SEMA. The handle is a little bit different. This is one of our earlier printed handles.
Right, yeah, because the picture is...
Yep. So if you look at the picture, it's got the small nose on it. For me, I like it because I tend to hold my machine like this a lot, or like this. So for me, it's a good finger rest on the adjuster.
Yeah.
And it conforms to my hand really good. There are situations where I hold like this, but most of the time I hold like this, and that's what I said. Everybody
holds it differently, right?
Yeah. So that's going to be your problem, but the biggest part for us is to make the lock really easy to use, regardless of how small or big your hands are. And then same thing for the nose. So I tried our nose from our finished prototype model, and I actually really liked it. But like I said, I have a medium to smaller hand. And
it's a large hand. Our hands are the same.
Yeah. And when we were in Germany, one of my friends, Samir Kunik, grabbed it, and he's got hands of a beast. And I mean, he just could hardly get a hold on it, and it would hurt his fingers.
He wrapped his fingers all the way around. He was
So it's we're still dialing in the finishing touches on that nose and what that looks like, but the biggest thing is that it's got to be universal, right hand and left hand. It's got to be super easy to use, and but we're really excited to show everybody at SEMA.
We're excited,
really cool,
because we're going to be next to you guys at SEMA.
Yeah,
which is even more fun.
So everybody coming to see us can see them, and vice versa. So
you come play with some towels, and then go play with the polisher.
There's an awesome crew of detailing companies in the pavilion, so I think it's going to be an awesome time.
Fun this year.
We're trying to make it worth your while to go out in the tents, guys.
Yeah. Well, we're doing a giveaway too.
Ooh.
We're doing a $250 pad giveaway.
Solid.
So you gotta come to the booth to enter.
Nice.
And we're gonna have people hanging out all week, I'm sure, between you.
Yeah, I'll be there. You guys will be there.
Color
Lock's in between us, so you guys check out that.
Mobile Tech Expo booth.
They'll be around the corner.
Yeah.
And then we'll have Jack Swax will be there. MTM Hydro is going to be right next to us as well.
Nice.
Stoner's Car Care is down the way. So we've got a lot of, there is actually a lot of detail companies that are going to be in the Performance Pavilion, as we're all trying to pay our dues before we
the
get
North
up
Hall
into the North
gets
Hall.
so full that you know what, eventually it just makes sense to band together out in the tents, when you can.
Exactly.
So I think it'll be a lot of fun, and detailers, don't be strangers. Come on out, say hi to all of us.
No, yeah, definitely do it.
So do you guys have anything that you guys want to talk about?
He's turning the tables.
No, actually we don't. We've got a 37 Ford that we're going to have in our booth.
And that's super rad. I tried to get this out of him last week when we did our
it's only fair, right?
There's some stuff going on that hasn't been announced yet.
We haven't announced it yet. It'll probably be ready before the end of the year.
Yeah.
So we're still kind of stuck on a couple things. We've got 2 items that we're going to be bringing out, but
we were
that's all I'm
hoping
going
for
to say.
SEMA, but
We're
it
hoping
just
for SEMA. Our timeline has just gone down. So
all we could say is stuff is really good, but it's got to be just right before it goes out. So
we'll say Jeff's a perfectionist.
Yeah.
And so
and he and I got that in our blood. So
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
I just thought I ask.
Yeah,
no, it's totally fine. I know everybody listening right now is going, "Come on!"
If you come into the Rag Company here in Boise, Idaho, you may get a little sneak peek, but you have to come to Boise to do it.
Yeah, that would be the way.
Come to one of our events; it's super fun, always a good time.
Oh yeah.
So this is going to be, you guys are going to be able to have not only polishers available for sale, not like I'm talking in the near future, but sales and support. So any issues and things like that, you guys are going to be handling as well with the new power tool company.
Yeah. So we're just finalizing all the details of what our warranty program looks like, how the service centers look like throughout the country and the world, how the tools get serviced properly, and just all the fine details of the packaging and things like that. But we're looking towards second quarter of next year so far. We're a little behind from where we wanted to be, but
we know how that goes.
Yeah, everybody does.
But hey, you know what? When it comes out, it's got to be right. I mean, I would happily wait if it meant I was going to get a product that actually worked like it was supposed to, as opposed to being the beta tester on the live market. Like some companies do.
Yep. Yeah, it's totally different. I think a lot of people are still doubting it a little bit in terms of the ability, but
sure,
we know that it's possible by design, by engineering. It's there, and we've been blessed with a number of amazing people to work on the team with us since the beginning. So just like anything that's successful, you work really hard. But sometimes there's a little luck that comes into there too. So sometimes you just get lucky and you get to work with some phenomenal people that help advance your projects and the things that you're doing. And it's a group effort. So we've worked really, really hard, but we've also been blessed quite a bit with some good talent.
Yeah. And new pads that have come out this year. We've got the wools.
Yep.
The kind of a revision of the wool with the interface, the foam interface.
Yep.
And then the microfiber cutting pads now have the orange foam. Originally they had black and blue foam interface.
So that we still have the black and blue. We've added the
orange
microfiber one step, which is the orange. So when you look at the microfiber pad line, it uses the same aggression or color combo that you would find in the SDO or HDO. Or kind of like the Hydrotech 2. So blue is cut, orange is polishing, and then either a black or red is finishing is typically kind of how we went around with that. So we added the one-step pad, which is more like a traditional microfiber polishing pad. It has a slightly longer pile. It's more plush. It does a good job of cutting, obviously not as much as the cutting pad, but it also has a lot more cutting ability than our finishing pad. So it's really good for one steps. It's really good for light cutting when the blue cutting pad isn't needed.
Okay.
But what we did with it is a lot of the detailers on the market that were using a polishing pad, they weren't necessarily using it for polishing. Because they were using it for light cutting, or where they didn't want that extra cutting pad, or they liked the residue control because of the longer pile. There was something about the pad that they liked, and they were willing to deal with it having a little less cut just because they preferred to use it. So what we did is we kind of went in the middle of that in terms of foam density and firmness to try to recreate a pad that we thought the end user really wanted. So they wanted that fiber, but they wanted a little bit more density or firmness than the black foam, so they could get a little bit more aggressive with it. So that's kind of what we did and slid it in the middle. So we have the first 3-step microfiber line that uses different microfibers on each pad.
That's
I apologize to our listeners. We do not carry that pad yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, I was going to say we should.
That's my responsibility.
Oh, no. That's I was going to say, how do people get their hands on one of these catalogs?
Well, we'll have some at SEMA.
Okay.
You can go on our website and you can download it. If you look at the lower...
Yeah, it's available.
Like a PDF.
I sent it to all you guys the other day. So.
Yeah, you can download it and get the PDF version of it.
Nice.
But we'll have some at SEMA as well, and I think it's a huge educational tool. I mean,
there's a ton of good info in here.
You guys have spent a ton of time on this.
This is not just like a sales pitch. This really has a lot of thought put into it.
Yeah.
You can see just from all the charts, showing the comparisons, the aggressiveness charts. I mean, you got numbers galore in here. So if you're going to wonk out on this stuff, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, even line drawings of what that
profile
looks
pad,
like.
all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, the side
There's
profile.
a ton of technical information on here that you guys can use. That is really to any of you guys that are ever been wondering as to why or how or differences or what makes that pad unique. Seriously, just go on the website and download it. And spend some time going through it. When Andrew and David both sent it to me, I sent it to everybody here in the office because even our new customer service rep, Rebecca, needed to learn a little bit. Oh, I'm sorry, Andrew. No, but Rebecca on my cup, she just needed to learn some of the stuff, basically the names of the pads and what we carry and why. And so it was, she already knew the names of all the pads we carry, but it was like, here, just you can read a little bit more and learn just a little more. She's not a detailer. But she works for us, so part of her job is to answer those questions for detailers.
Yeah, this has been huge for our customer service.
She does really great.
Yeah.
And Dave won't talk about it, but he spent a lot of time.
He spent a ton of time
putting this together, and so hats off to him.
It's appealing to
I'm
like
gonna
an
give you guys a
brain.
little tip. I got a little sneak peek at some of these.
Yep.
Just because we're friends, so it made it fun to see. But I was like, "Holy crap!" The amount of time you put into this is insane.
Yeah, and I'm not the only one.
It looks great.
Our team, thank you very much. Yeah, our team spent a lot of time. Our global sales director Don and Scott on our team too. Central sales manager spent a lot of time on it. Everybody in our entire office spent a lot of time on it, just because I'm sure you guys know editing is painful.
Yeah.
I mean, you could look at the thing 20 times and you think it's absolutely perfect.
We send stuff all the time, emails back and forth. What do you think of this? How's this look? I mean, even sales banners.
Tweak. Yep.
Yeah. So the person who put the catalog together, or the designer, was probably about ready for it to be over at the end too, with all the changes. But either way, everybody spent a lot of time on it. And like you said, Connor's on it. Connor's in it. Huge thanks to him. He's a local detailer in Wisconsin. He's a good friend of mine. Has become a good friend of mine over the last 5 or 6 years, and
he's a good detailer.
He is a great detailer, and that's part of our friendship. Is I can utilize him as a resource to test products. He does good photography. He helps me out in a number of different ways, and we do a lot of cool projects together when it comes to detailing. So whether I have something neat coming in and I want his help and do some social media coverage on, or if he's got something, which tends to be most of the case these days since I haven't been scheduling details with all my traveling, but he's been willing to help us out with photography and providing us with some really good images for our website too. So hats off to him. He's been a huge help.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, and on a side note, just because I recall earlier you kind of said, people were kind of doubting because you were coming out with a machine. Well, if you think about it, this isn't a towel company coming out with a polisher. This is a company that makes pads, that makes all this stuff, that have been working around polishers for decades.
Yeah.
They know their way around a machine, and not just one kind of machine. They know all the machines because they've had to make things compatible with all the machines that are out there.
Well, you've seen, but there's a picture.
So I would trust that expertise
all the different machines
over almost anybody.
That these polishers, that their pads work on. So
that's no small feat. Everything from the big guys all the way down to the hybrid. I mean, it's all there.
Yeah, and I mean, I can provide some value because I still use a machine, and I love to detail. I talk to a lot of detailers.
Yep.
But a lot of the designing and everything comes from Scott. So he's been a huge inspiration to this stuff. I don't know how he comes up with some of the ideas that he has.
You were saying he kind of had like an aviation background? Or?
Yeah, he does. So he's a aeronautical engineer. He's a certified FAA
Very cool.
inspector. And he's a pilot. He's got a couple planes. And I always think it's really funny because he's the vice president of our company, but I always think of somebody that's got airplanes as being super rich and
right.
And I'm sure he does
next
well for
level,
himself,
unattainable.
Next level. But when
you're like, man, his airplanes are kind of beat up. Like,
no, and his are perfect. And they're just glorious.
Yeah,
they're all restored. Scott does all of his interiors. He sews his interiors.
Yeah,
I mean, he's just an amazing guy.
Man.
But when I first got a chance to go to his hangar, it it was really neat to me because I got into this industry and I got into, well, the automotive industry as in general is because I loved modifying cars. I loved cars in general, and I wasn't able to fund that hobby. So I would buy, repair, flip, fix cars, you know, do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whether I'm working on somebody's car that I know, buying and fixing and reselling a car. And so when I got to go to his hangar and kind of get to know a little bit more about him, I realized that that's how he got into airplanes. So he bought his first airplane for, you know, less than $20,000, which seems crazy for an airplane.
That thing flies?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
I'd be a little afraid of that. But so he bought his first airplane and he restored that airplane and made it to what he wanted it to, sold it, and then bought another one and did it again. So you can kind of slowly get into a nicer and nicer aircraft.
It's the paperclip to a Porsche thing.
Yeah, exactly. So when I got, I mean, like I said, obviously he does all right for himself, so it's not like that. But when I understood that a little bit, I was like, oh, all right, I get.
It's not just on a different scale.
Just on a different scale, yeah. So, you know, you can't afford to buy new seats for your airplane. Well, you remake them and you sell them yourself.
Yeah.
And fortunate enough for him is he's a really skilled guy, so it all looks really good.
So he's got a really strong DIY spirit.
Oh, huge. Yeah. Huge.
Yeah, and you guys said he literally came in one day with a bunch of cardboard.
Yeah, like a particle board piece.
Yeah, and a popsicle stick that he had
like drilled a hole in.
Yeah, he'd worked on it in the garage and then was like, "All right, here's my idea."
This is how it's gonna work.
But it's that kind of stuff. Like we just took him over to our photography studio, and Bart yesterday had his heater. Yeah. That he built.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "What is that?"
Built a
Anthony's
heater?
like, "This thing's putting out some heat," and it's literally some OSB wrapped in the reflective tape, but then he's like, yeah, it's just 2 heater coils from a dryer, and then a scroll fan.
It's like, how does a squirrel play into this?
It's a scroll fan from a convection oven.
Oh.
And then he wired them all together to 2 switches, and then wired up a 220 volt so he can click on both coils to heat up.
That sounds awesome, but of course, my brain immediately goes, fire hazard?
Yeah.
He's had that thing for 5 years.
Whoa, okay.
Built it in his garage. He went to the recycling center and picked up the heater coils. Like, I was blown away. Like, this guy built our articulating light bank.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
built all the walls.
Yeah.
He did most of the demo in that plate. Like, the guy's legit.
But the
heater,
I was that's
so
a new one to me.
blown away at that heater. I was like, this is
clever.
insane.
Yeah. That's really
but
clever.
For him, it was his dad was an electrical and mechanical engineer in Poland, and came over here. And he goes, we didn't have a lot of money, and so if I wanted something, we usually had to make it.
Yep.
And so my dad would make us that stuff, and he would show us. And he's like, if I needed a bike, he'd go find some bikes and he'd put them together, and I'd get a bike. And that's how he just did it. He's like, if I wanted to, want to build a go-kart, my dad figured out how to build a go-kart, and we just built it.
I want a polisher with multiple orbits. I'm going to make that.
But it's that same,
like that.
but at the same time, it's that mechanical know-how of like, it's how it works, like it's fascinating that there's that, I think in this day and age, people seem to forget that this can happen. Mm-hmm. Like the creation of something completely different, because so many people go, everything's been invented already.
The word innovation gets thrown around a lot.
Yeah, and this is something you guys have been working on for a long time.
Yep.
Something they've been working on, Lake Country has been working on for a long time. Yeah. And patented the technology in Europe already.
Yep. And in the U.S.
And in the U.S. But patented the technology before they've revealed anything. They already had all the...
No, we're giving away all the secrets right now, and they should be really panicked. No.
Yeah.
But we did their due diligence.
Yeah, we did, and had everything ready to make revisions to prior to releasing or launching any information about it. So we're well protected in terms of how it's made or how you could recreate it. But yeah, it's a 3-year process, and it's kind of neat. I mean, we don't work for a normal company. I'll actually interested to hear what you have to say, but we work for a relatively small company, similar to Ray Company. It's a family-owned company. It's awesome to work at, but it's also a lot different than a lot of companies too, and I'm sure you guys experience that. So as much as we have our traditional type of roles, similar to what Andrew does, and sales roles, everybody kind of wears a couple different hats.
Multiple
or you
hats.
Get in where you fit in, and any extra value that you're willing to provide is well appreciated because we run a tight crew.
Yeah, exactly.
But it also gives us the abilities for somebody that doesn't have any engineering background. I'm just a detailer that's a little weird and love buffing pads and love paint, but
you're like fascinated with the geeky aspects of like
I'm
stuff
so
that's
passionate.
going on. Yeah.
Well, and if you look at it, like this is no different than like Jason Rose with Rupes designing and working on his foam on the pads. He's trying to create a unique system with not only with their machine, their pads, but then their polishes.
Yeah.
And how they can all work together. This is basically the same thing. Lake Country manufactures buffing pads and backing plates. So why wouldn't they create a tool that works perfectly with all these same situations?
It makes sense.
You know, we felt it was a good fit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and that's like, I mean, I think it leads into the segue. This is just kind of the beginning too. So I don't know if you guys picked up on, but this is called LC Power Tools.
I was gonna say don't call it LC Power Tools just for one tool.
Right.
Plurals right in the name. So.
Right. So Dave alluded to like innovation.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I actually just recently joined Lake Country to kind of further my career in this space.
Yeah.
And what I actually look for in a company is for a company to be innovative. So this is not the first patent that we have. There's many patents that we have, and this is just to kind of keep building in this exciting time in like the industry.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited to see, like, this is going to come out, but let's see what's going to come out after this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah, it's setting you on a path. So
Yeah, a lot of people
Very
think our
cool.
industry is plateaued, but it's far from it.
Yeah.
You know, like,
I think
was.
it's just starting to come into the limelight now because more
Well,
and
you go
more
back-
regular people
you
are
go back
starting to
6,
notice what
7
detailing
years.
is.
and that 5 years ago, I would have said the same thing.
Yeah.
I'd been like,
Yeah.
oh, it's just coming into the limelight. It's
Oh,
awesome.
exactly.
You know,
It's
like-
happening
Yeah.
again.
And I did that 5 years before that too. But
Yep.
I mean, essentially, like
Yeah.
I'd say maybe the last 12 years have been huge growth, and that's just shooting from the hip. But
Internet helps.
But our
Yeah.
but our industry is still dynamic in the
Yeah.
sense that there's still room for someone to find something different or create something new or to utilize a new product or make something safer, easier.
It's
you know.
it's easy to get complacent with stuff. You're like, oh, got a good thing going. I
Yeah.
think we could just glide, keep doing this. You know, there's some companies that do that. They're not,
or just private label and copy a,
Well, and-
like,
and
hey,
there's that.
we've brought out our own version of the 21. Like,
where
not
you're just
doing that.
piggybacking on the popularity of
Right.
something that's already there. I mean,
Yeah.
that happens too. But to actually do something that's very much your own thing, you're coming at it from a different angle. I mean, for us, we do it with the way we do our social media stuff like
Yeah.
that. We really like to make it as like, oh, you know the rag company when you see it. But with this is a strong statement right here.
Yeah.
I mean, this is different. And granted, I'm sure there's people who've had the idea in their head before, but to have the know-how and the actual, the wherewithal to make it happen and really make it functional and make it something that people are going to want to use for, foreseeably a long time to come.
yeah,
That's different than just kind of going, yeah, but okay, I'm happy doing what I'm doing.
yeah,
Yeah.
and luckily we've retained a lot of good relationships with a lot of companies in our industry, even with the tool and with some other pads and things like that, because we've always been innovative. We've never tried to release a product just to have it compete with another product, like a Me Too type of a product. So,
Yeah.
Right.
like if you look at our HDO line, a lot of people didn't really understand it, and
Yeah.
I'm the one that developed that system. But to be honest with you, a lot of people didn't understand it because it was a pad line that incorporated microfiber pads and foam into the same line.
Yeah.
But the reason that we did that is because throughout the world, a lot of people look at systems.
Yep.
So my idea was that as long as we keep that microfiber part of that system, they'll understand that, because in our foam pad options in HDO or SDO,
Yeah.
we don't get extremely aggressive yet. Right now, we don't. We get into like a light cutting or a really heavy polishing pad with our blue. It's really universal, but our cutting features come from
The microfiber.
the microfiber or the low lint
Yeah.
for heavy cutting purposes. So, we've been able to have good relationships with other brands throughout the years, because when we have come out with something, we did it our own way, and we
Yeah.
never tried to copy anybody. So, and like in companies like Flex and Rupes, they make great tools. So, so hopefully we can continue to do the same thing with our polisher, where we can continue to have good relationships with other brands in our market.
Yeah.
Because we don't gun for their product line or gun for the direct competition with a certain type of tool or a certain type of thing.
Well, and that's a big part of it, is something everybody, in detailing, the detailing industry, both on a consumer and on the producer side of things, is there's more than enough room for everybody to do this, especially with detailing expanding, from what was once very niche, now with the internet and other things helping propel it out into the world. It's like, oh, it's more than just somebody who, buffs their car in their driveway, although it is that. It's more than just, just a dirty job that people don't want to do. There's a lot of people who really, actually look up to detailers now. Yeah. There's a lot of that. Mm-hmm. And it's just, it's nice to see it grow, but at the same time, like, there's a lot of companies out there doing this stuff. But yeah, with the Rupus, the Flex, you guys, there's room for everybody.
Yeah,
on this front.
Too. And it's just, for me, I think that there's so much and so many possibilities out there that it's just finding whatever your lane is and kind of having fun with it. Because in my opinion, is if you're not having fun with it, that's kind of the end.
Yeah,
and that's where you guys have been really successful, right? I mean, we try to have a lot of fun. Yeah, you have a lot of fun, and that equates into having somewhat of a successful business and having things that your YouTube channel growing and things like that, because it's you're not being like, oh, I need to have the best podcast this week.
We don't do miserable. That's not our thing, unless it's funny.
We're not curing cancer.
No,
we're selling towels.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we're a towel company, and that's all we're selling towels that people use to wipe off their cars. Like,
we can't take ourselves that seriously. There are people who think we take ourselves seriously.
There are people that think that, or they, they call us out on something, and it's like, man, we're just trying to have fun and enjoy.
You said this 5 months ago, but now you say this. Okay.
Which is funny. Honestly, like, you have guys like that, and
it's minutia. It's not even anything remotely important.
And as much as the ones that are a little bit more challenging, that might be more aggressive in that nature.
Yeah.
Because you find that detailers are very similar. When you see it, when you meet them, you see them for years.
Yeah.
They have a lot of similar characteristics.
Yes.
Especially because I'm a detailer too. So I see it right away. But just like the bad stuff, or what we would consider bad,
yeah.
You got a huge market of really talented people, and in my opinion, just operate a little bit different. So,
yeah.
They have a different type of thought process. You have a lot of people that are extremely talented, have a lot of crazy good ideas, maybe can innovate themselves, but don't have the ability to do it. So we have a lot of feedback from our industry. We get a lot of good ideas from people in our industry that are just willing to share. But a lot of these guys have the ability to do things on their own too, just because they don't realize that even though they're just one person, that our industry hasn't been washed away yet.
It's not everything's been invented yet. Not every technique has been discovered yet.
Yeah.
I mean, the stuff that works for a reason, but at the same time, there's no reason you can't play around the margins or, try something new, assuming you're not destroying someone's car while you do it.
Yeah.
I mean,
and you're seeing it with, Billy with American Detailer Garage.
Yeah.
Or like Manette's or
even detailed review in that sense.
Yeah.
Like, it's finally I think that's one of the things I love about detailed review, is that group doesn't take itself too seriously,
and they don't tolerate the people who do.
No, I love detailed review too, and I gotta say, originally I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
So like when I first heard about it and I got into the group, I'm like,
it's a culture now.
I don't really know if I get it. But I really like that group.
Well, and I like it because, like, we can be silly and we can have fun, and it is more about it uniting the industry. And I like that, all the brands can be in there, and there isn't any animosity towards each other. Or
you mentioned uniting the industry, and I see all these little wristbands over here. How'd that happen? Oh,
you guys want some P&S Detail Industry Strong?
Yeah.
These are going to be, they're handing these out at SEMA.
They gave us a few to give out, but we have a very limited supply. You guys seem the right ones to give out.
But again,
what does this mean, by the way?
It's basically uniting the industry to basically just be bastions of good faith, good representatives of your industry.
High tide floats all boats.
Yeah.
So
basically, don't be horrible people, don't be horrible companies, and you deserve that.
Exactly. And I think that's the hardest part is even on the smallest level, for a detail shop, to the detailers that are listening, that you can't detail every single car in your city.
No.
There are some guys who
there
sure try.
There are a lot of guys who sure try and think that this is their town and this is I do that. Like, realistically, how many people live in your city?
Secrets.
How many cars do you do a month? Like, and I've worked in big shops and we've done a lot of cars, but
there's still more.
There's so much work out there for everybody that we're not stealing. You're not stealing market share from anybody.
It's so much wasted mental energy. It
exactly.
Really is. I mean, everybody's been there. I feel like.
Well, I think anybody, even when you start, you're like, oh, I want to do this and I want to do that. And it's natural to want that.
It's a conversation we've had with a few different people because it always comes up in the comments. People are like, man, I can't make a buck in my town. Nobody wants to pay for good services and stuff. And, you know, maybe their approach is off and they're trying to reach out to the wrong people or something. But there's always an audience if you can tap into it. It's just a matter of, finding it. Well, that is the hard part.
A lot of it, though, is just educating.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the good things about not only this catalog, but what the industry is trying to do. There's so much information out there for everybody now.
Yeah.
And when you and I started, there wasn't.
No.
We didn't have that.
No.
And so to be able to have this opportunity that have all these different manufacturers and companies be able to provide so much information, whether it's even just on their website or through podcast videos, all that kind of stuff. I remember when the Rupes first came out, I was trying to figure out, I was watching every video I could on YouTube just to see how to hold a polisher. Because I was like, wait, if I hold it wrong, it stalls? Like, I didn't know that. I didn't know that concept because I had been a rotary guy my whole life. And I thought a DA was for sanding. That was the only reason I'd use it. I was like, that doesn't make sense, but okay. So, it was trying to find, and there was only a couple videos out there that you could see, and it was like, do this, don't do this, do this, don't do that. And that was some dude in his shop made it. But to be able to actually see this coming down the line and being able to attend SEMA and be able to go to Mobile Tech and do all these things for detailers now, it is the golden era, so to speak. You feel, but maybe 5 years ago we said that.
Yeah. Hopefully we keep saying it.
Hopefully we keep. But with companies like Lake Country coming out with their new power tool line with equipment, there is still a ton of ideas that nobody has even thought of yet. I don't even know what they are, but
maybe one of our listeners is the next idea.
You never know, and it'll be neat to see what else you guys come out with, because I mean, this is crazy innovation.
That is a strong start.
Well, you never know how the world's going to change too. Like,
right.
I mean, just even jumping back to wool pads, wool's a natural product. It's going to continue to increase in costs.
Yeah.
It's just one of those products that's continued to do so. And how does that look in 10 years from now?
Going to have to be forced to adapt. Either the customers will, you will, or both, or something's got to give. So
you're always looking at new materials. You're always looking at new designs to help kind of give you that next step into what our future looks like and try to create a value-added product at a reasonable cost. It's fine if you have a premium product with a premium price, but if you can build a premium product and have a competitive price range, you kind of have a good hold in that segment of your market.
Yeah, it's okay to be competitive price-wise as long as you're not shooting yourself in the foot where you're ending up, you're going to run out of business because you're not making any money.
Well, I mean
that's one of those things that people always forget.
Like all the different materials on pads.
Yeah, I assume moving to synthetics is kind of the answer to that eventually.
You've got foams, you've got wool, you've got natural wool, you've got synthetic wool, you've got foamed wool, you've got rayon, you've got denim, you've got...
and then
I always forget about denim.
There's all kinds of different...
And there's new things. I mean, in just looking in composites. So, I just got back from a composite
show.
Yeah. So those are a lot of new things. I mean...
Lightweight, strong materials.
Yeah, and seeing where the future of that is pretty fascinating. Seeing pretty much anything being printed out of carbon is awesome.
Yeah.
It's kind of ground up, let's say ground up waste or scrap or things like that held together with... like a resin or some
kind of bonding agent.
Yeah, some sort of bonding agent. And they're actually running that in 3D printing, and it's extremely strong. And seeing the market shift away from metals is pretty fascinating, just because metal is something that we need so much of. And and obviously China is very strong in their metals.
Yeah, you're dealing with finite resources. Yeah. There's, cost shifting attached to all that stuff. And, a lot of people, it's always funny. For my generation, we don't necessarily mind plastic very much because we kind of grew up with it, and it's not necessarily indicative of like, oh, that thing's cheap. But I know for the generations, prior to me and stuff like that, everything's like, oh, when they stopped making things out of metal, they became junk. It's all cheap plastic from, China stuff. Man. Plastics are not what they used to be. I mean, it's come a long way in terms of what you can do with them. And, of course, like you're talking about the carbon printing and all that stuff, there are materials besides metal that can be quality and can be reflected.
I mean, they make rebar and different, tubing and things like that typically be made out of metal, like rebar for concrete. Making that out of complete composites, it no longer.
That's crazy to me.
It is crazy. And I've seen it. I felt it. It's extremely strong. It isn't
people
corrosive.
Think you're gonna snap it like graphite or something.
It won't corrode like metal will over time. Yeah. So it's a lifetime relative, to the testing and what you can expect for your lifeline of that product, but much more durable than what a steel piece.
It's an excellent point.
Well, and then just sizing of electronics and lightweight and I mean, we joke about like polishers from the 50s and 60s. I mean, it's a solid hunk of steel, and the gears were they could only cut gears so small.
Oh yeah,
to run that machine. So
it's like holding a crock pot.
You had 50-pound polishers.
Oh yeah,
when you were throwing on the hood of a car, and you had to run those.
You don't have to worry about your downward pressure.
No,
yeah,
I think what's also interesting too is like we always talk about some of the pads, right? Some of the compounds, polishes. Well, what about the clears too?
Yeah, clears changing like crazy.
Paint's changing, right? And last 5 years I've been in and out of body shops, and the way that is it a solvent? How is it drying? Is it? I mean, we have water-based paints coming. We have so many different manufacturers.
More and more manufacturers taking on water-based.
And then the substrate too. How's that substrate going to disperse some of that heat, right? Because there's all these different substrates, aluminum
instead of steel, and carbon fiber.
They behave differently.
Everything. It completely changes how
more fiberglass in your
a polish, a compound, that pad, that DA, that whatever tool you're using is going to affect what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Because a one-size-fits-all will get you to a certain point, but eventually you're going to have to adapt.
Well, and it's crazy to think of like how much more stuff we have to think about nowadays as a detailer or just as a company. People joke and make fun of us because they're like, I go on your website, I can't find anything. You've got too many towels.
Too many things.
Well, there's a reason.
Yeah.
There's a reason. Each blend, each weave, each type of towel is different for different settings, for different pieces of equipment, for different temperatures, for different products.
We could do it where we have a simple lineup of just like 5 towels, and these are your towels. Because there's ways to do that, and to the folks who do that, that's fine. That's a system to sell. Our thing is we're oftentimes supplying those who are coming up with those systems and stuff, and they got their preferences, but maybe one of their other competitors has different preferences. We're covering all those bases because that minutia, it makes a big difference in the person's hand when they're actually using the product. It's very different from one to the next because you hear the glass towels are always something that comes up because people are like, I hate how it bunches up. But you know what? I love how they finish.
Well, we've got 7.
And, of course, people hate hearing that answer. Well, some do.
What's best for you?
But, yeah, they don't like hearing, oh, man, just tell me. Like, some people are those just tell me, kind of people. And that's okay. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying.
I could give you a towel, and you would find fault with it.
Yeah, because if I tell you this is the best, you're gonna go use that towel that I just told you was the best, and you're gonna say maybe you do love it, but maybe you end up going, ugh, I hate how this bunches. This is your best. I want nothing to do with you now.
We've got people that use one of our polished compound removal towels, like the Drago, and go, it's the best for glass.
Okay.
It wasn't designed for glass.
For you.
With that, but
For you,
it is. Yeah. But there's a reason we develop these glass towels because they do this type of job.
No, I think the last time we talked when I was here, that was kind of an idea that I had too. Is just, talking about, which I haven't done, but doing different people in our industry and what their favorites are because everybody's different. Be like, you know what? Here's, like, I'm Dave and from Lake Country, and these are my 5 favorite types of towels,
exactly.
or 5 favorite rag company towels, just because everybody uses them a little bit different. And I know there's a lot of companies that sell towels and
Jason Kilmer, he came.
Yep.
He only likes 2 towels, and then he likes a lot of them, but his 2 go-tos.
Yeah.
2 he uses all the time. 365.
Yep.
And the Eagle 350.
Yep.
That's like he's a happy man. That's all he needs.
That's all he wants. That's all he needs.
Yep.
But yeah, then he got Bob up the street. He just uses Costco towels. That's it. Don't ask him to try something else. That's all he wants. He wants nothing to do with anything else, and that's okay.
We've got detail shops here in Boise that use 245s to wipe off wax.
And that's a thin towel, but it's designed for a purpose.
They think it's great, and so it is very different. You hand Rennie an Eagle, and he's in heaven. 500. An Eagle 500 in orange. He's happy. He loves that towel.
But you hand it to another guy, and he goes, "Oh, this is ridiculously plush. I don't need this. I don't want this."
Ivan loves waffle weaves.
Yeah,
like any of our waffles. That's Ivan's favorite towel.
I think he just likes waffles in general. He seems to be a waffle guy.
He's a waffle guy. Yeah.
But it's funny. But it's because everybody's different. Everybody's got a different play on stuff. You go into my house, it's 365s all day long.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
I do love
365s and Dragos because Dragos are 365s, but that's what I use.
It's
because that's
kind
what
of
I use in my shop. And Matt Mormon loves the Creature. Like there's that's probably his favorite go-to towel for everything. And so there's big differences just amongst the general population. And so you got to remember we have to make that stuff because we have to appeal to everybody. And just like Lake Country, they have to appeal to all the different polishers. There's so many different types, and each one reacts differently. And we have people that call and go, "Man, why don't you guys carry the CCS and the Hydrotech and this one and this one?" And it's like, well,
it's tough to say because there's 5 people out there who will buy them from us.
Yeah.
But after them, I don't know.
Yeah, and it's like we cullinated a pretty good group of stuff based on the most popular machines and what folks are going to use, and pads I've used personally that I've fallen in love with, and so
when it comes to the ridiculous lineup, we'll keep it to just towels.
But we'll
because that's what we know and that's what we're best at.
We try and pick the best of the best that we can, possibly use, and that's one of the things I love. But every company makes so many great things, and that's what's so neat. So
and that's kind of what I was going towards is that there's other companies that sell towels, and they'll sell plenty of them. They're successful businesses, whatever.
Oh yeah, totally. Auto Fiber, those guys. Ian's great.
Ian's a great guy. And even let's say there's some other smaller ones that most detailers don't know about. Let's say they sell towels.
Yeah.
But they don't necessarily have the knowledge or added value that the rag company or Ian or any of these guys would provide.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of how I look at it as Lake Country too. So we don't just make pads. We have a really strong team that has. That's either been educated in our industry, has worked in the trenches. We have a lot of people, including myself, that have been in the trenches doing the stuff, still do it.
Yep.
And that's where we kind of differentiate ourselves because in the detail market is where most people know us, and we sell pads and we provide products that we feel are valuable to that detailer. But ultimately, where we have a strong case is in our private label when we manufacture for other people. Because we can help dial in their procedure, or in like a factory or a plant, like a OEM for cars, things like that. That's where we have a really strong backing because most of the people in our team can walk in and help dial in a procedure relatively quick and resolve problems. And that's kind of how we've...
Well, and you're located, positioned in a really good place to do that sort of thing, especially for like domestic manufacturers. You're not too far away if you need to like go vet something.
No. Andrew's not either.
Yeah.
He's even closer.
Oh man. Well, we've covered all the other bases, but I kind of want to get to know you. Let's get to know you. We've had him on before.
Yeah. We got a few minutes.
But you know what?
Andrew, let's spend a few minutes
you.
So for those that don't know,
Andrew
is we got an email 6 months ago or so.
No, maybe about 3 months ago.
3 months, maybe about 3 months. The days run together. Yeah, but we got one sent out. I think Courtney sent it out, and it was welcome Andrew to the team. And then David sent me a thing, said Andrew's going to be your new contact there, but you and I are still best friends. We can hang out and talk.
It's okay.
And then Andrew sent me an email, and so that's it. So this is the first time I've actually gotten to meet you.
Thank you.
And then next week we get to spend like 10 days together, so that'll be a lot of fun.
It'll be
we'll
fun.
Get to know each other.
Sorry, we flipped it and we're introducing you at the end.
Yeah,
but it's okay.
But
At this
Tell
point,
us
no one's
about
listening
yourself.
anymore.
No, you'd be surprised. People stick through.
People stick through, yeah.
Yeah. Well, just a little bit of background. I was fascinated with Asia in college, and I went on a couple of study tours over there. And actually, who was going to be my boss one day, he ended up meeting this guy over there and on a ferry. There were two white guys on a ferry, sharing business cards.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Hey, if you ever want somebody to come over and work in the automotive aftermarket, hit me up." And so I just graduated college, and I'm like, "Hey," he like sent out an email to like all the people who were on the business study tour with him, and he's like, "Hey, there's a small company called McGuire's, and they're like, hey, would you like to go over there and run around and show people how to use some of the products?" And I'm like, man, that sounds like a really, really fun idea. So I think that was in January 2009. I just graduated college, and I had previously detailed some cars for my friend just on the weekends.
Yeah.
And I ended up moving into Asia, and I mean, it's a very, very small world, but any place that has cars essentially needs any type of car care product, right?
Yeah.
And that's pads.
It doesn't matter how rich
what
or
it
poor
is.
the country is.
Yep. You'd be
Dudes are
very, very
shining
surprised.
cars.
A lot of people want to take care of their stuff, so.
Yeah, so I spent a lot of time actually in running around all over Asia, just trying to kind of promote the brand and teach people like what car care was.
Yeah.
Cars are significantly more expensive over there.
Sure.
Actually, it's really weird. In China, you hardly ever see the sun because there's so much pollution.
Right.
So think about like how many squirrels you see in a car if you don't see the sun at all. So
wait, this is bad?
Oh yeah, they had no idea. So just really, really educating the market, and this was 10 years ago.
Sure.
So spent about 5 years in with McGuire's. I ended up coming back to the United States, and then I worked as like a technical support for Latin America, and then also grew some sales, some of the accounts down there. Running all over Latin America and doing the same type of educating that I did in Asia and kind of what we're doing now. So you see a whole resurgence of that educating and the technology of, you know, where McGuire's was 10 years ago to where they are today. Yeah. And then I ended up moving into the aftermarket with 3M. So 3M is owned McGuire's at the time, and I was a technical regional sales rep for them in Indiana, and I had this opportunity to come over and kind of be back in more of like the detail space, but also kind of use some of the industrial applications and sales skills that I had learned, and it kind of expand on that. So
very cool. I'm
really, really excited. West Coast, I have kind of more of a West Coast personality, very laid back, but really, really enjoyed the ride so far with Lake Country and being part of like an innovative team of really just kind of pushing the envelope and seeing what's next out there. Because it's just it's not another Me Too product. It's something that's different. So I don't know what other questions you guys have.
It's like a roller coaster ride between the fine line of amazing and insane.
Mm-hmm.
But we do it. We love it. So
you guys got it down pat.
Yeah, we try.
Oh
Sweet.
man.
Well, Andrew,
I think that wraps an hour.
Hanging out with us. Appreciate this. Yeah. David, always a pleasure to have you.
It's awesome to be here.
I cannot explain how excited I am for SEMA.
It's going to be fun.
You know, last year we were just by ourselves in the tent, and we were like, man,
we were stuffed in the corner.
No one around. This is
people still found us,
People still found us.
Yeah.
But this year, to be able to like kind of have our own little North Hall, so to speak, in the Performance Pavilion, super excited. So those of you that are coming to SEMA, we're all in the Performance Pavilion.
Levi's going to be giving away a lot of free stuff.
I won't be giving away a lot of free stuff. You can come get lens cloths.
You should bring some Master of Shine hats.
I don't know. We'll see. I can bring some. We'll bring some lens cloths. You can have some of those. We'll bring some stickers.
I'll tell you what, lens cloths.
We do. We'll have towels again.
We'll have the towels to feel. But I'll tell you right now, probably the best thing we ever did at SEMA last year was give out lens cloths. Everybody has something that requires a lens cloth.
They have
glasses, phones, watches, you name it. Nobody said, "Oh, I don't want that." Everybody was like, "Oh, thank you," because you give out trinkets and stuff. Not everybody is game for that, but a lens cloth, It's small. You can fold it. You can put it wherever. It's an easy thing. I'm making a sales pitch for anyone else who wants to buy lens cloths from us.
Andrew's getting his sunglasses.
Where's the lens cloth?
Check this out. Well,
we don't have any in here.
We don't have any.
We've got regular microfiber in here.
I know it sounds stupid, but for me, that's the cool thing about trade shows when I see you guys are coming here is, and I think a lot of detailers might be the same, is you're hands-on.
Yeah.
You're very visual and hands-on.
It's
type of
tactile.
person.
Yeah.
So it's neat to be able to touch and feel every towel.
Come stick your hands in
completely
some
understand
towels.
it instead of ordering like a ton of different towels. Be like,
That
I
was-
like 3 of these.
that
The
was
rest of them are okay.
That was, and that's one of the big things. Like coming to our events and things is you get to touch and feel everything. We are going to have 2 walls that have stuff on them, so you can feel all the towels. If you hadn't touched a certain towel before, come feel them. But that was my first email to Jeff. Was
That's how we
literally-
hired you.
Literally, I said, "Can I come stick my hands in some towels?" That's all I said. I go, "Do you have boxes around, or what do I got to do? I just want to come feel some towels."
Anybody else would be a complete weirdo, but because you're getting an email and you're a towel company like us, who went, okay, we guess we got to say yes to people who ask things like this.
Because it had,
Yeah.
it gave me on Google like a house address, but then it also gave me a business address. And I was like, I don't know where.
We
and they were in the transition from moving from the garage to the new store. But
some things hadn't been changed yet, but yeah, you would have seen the house.
But yeah, so you get to play with that. You guys will get to come play with a new UDOS.
All right.
On a
I'll give
serious
you
note,
kudos
though,
on
like,
the name.
Kudos.
like education, right? On
Yeah.
learning about like I'm not very well versed in towels, but
Yeah.
I mean that's why we're going to these events.
Yeah.
Right? Is to really help educate the consumer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great to launch new products, but I think education is like super key.
Yeah, well, it is, and it makes you better.
Yeah.
Well,
in your
and
job.
once you understand why something could benefit you, it goes a long way towards them actually getting it in their hands and using it versus just going, ooh, shiny thing, and then the next shiny thing comes along and they get distracted. I mean, if you can actually demonstrate to somebody a reason why this is important for them, maybe it's not, but the people who it is important to, boom, you got them locked in.
Yeah.
That's what I think about when the first week I worked in our factory. I mean, it wasn't just like explosion in my head. It was like firecrackers, like
Yeah, all kinds of little crazy things.
This
Yeah,
is awesome. And
All
but
kinds of fun stuff.
But reality is, it all just kind of clicked. And then once it did, and I completely understood, at least, you always learn stuff, but completely had this basis of understanding of all these different things. It changed my polishing process. It changed my detailing process, but it also changed how I would approach and talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Because my original perception was so much different than what I had learned there, that I felt like if I could do that to an end user or to a detailer or somebody like that, it would just be just as mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And they would totally get it. I mean, it's like a game changer. Game over.
Yeah, no, doing this kind of thing, you really, if you don't already have it, you really develop empathy for like all different walks of life, people coming through, and they come at it from different angles, and you can appreciate that, when you're on the side, selling the towels, selling the polishers or the pads or whatever it is. You're not just going to meet a bunch of the same person.
So for those of you coming to SEMA, come see us. We're going to be in the Performance Pavilion.
Yep.
We're on an end cap, 51227, so you guys can see us. We have a 37 Ford in our booth that won America's Most Beautiful Street Rod. And then
51223
Yeah.
and 51225.
right behind us is going to be Lake Country.
Don't worry,
And
if you
Color
find us,
Lock
you'll find them.
and MTM Hydro, Jack's Wax. All of us are going to be near each other. So please come take a look. Andrew and David, thank you guys for coming.
Thank
to
you
do
guys.
This.
Yeah,
This
thank
is
you.
awesome. Dane, you got anything to close it out?
No, I'm just going to say, hey guys, thanks so much for listening. And if you're watching on the Rag Company Podcast YouTube channel, we really appreciate that. We know a lot more people listen than watch the videos, of course, but it's always nice when somebody hops on there and gives it a few views.
Yeah.
That's cool. I just wanted to say, if you got any questions for these guys, or you have suggestions on the Orbit or anything like that, and you want to get in before closing time, you shoot them an email, as we talked about, go through their website, or you can leave some comments on the video and we'll pass the word along too. But anyway, guys, thanks so much. We'll catch you next time.
See ya.
Bye.